one more minute and then so one more minute and then I'll start the presentation. Okay, let's start. Thank you guys so much for joining today. It's really nice to see you. And we're going to make it, just quick. So today we're going to talk about business models and also about business model Canva and business plan. So the agenda for today is basically just like talking about the definition of what actually business model is. Then we're gonna talk about like some popular, like not that many, but popular business models. And then I'm gonna tell you a little bit about St. Galen Business Model Navigator, which is like a kind of like a tool for creating new business models based on the existing ones. And then we'll talk about business model Canva, which is another tool, but this time for kind of like visualizing your business plan, but in a very easy and, just straightforward way, something that you can just have on one piece of paper and that describes your business. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the actual business plan. So what elements should it have? And, kind of like business plan is kind of like an extended, much longer version of business model Canva. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And then I'm going to share some resources with you. And that's going to be it. So let's start. Business model basically is a description of how company is functioning. And it's kind of like answering three very short questions of how does the company generate income? What does it do to generate income? And who is paying for it? So this is just kind of like different elements of how the actual company is functioning. So I'm going to show you some like pictures, but the pictures represent four of kind of the most popular business models that we have functioning. And I would like to ask you actually the three questions. So how each of those four models we're going to talk about generate income, how does it generate profit, and like what does it do, and then who is paying for it. So the first picture is a bakery. So how did it generate income, guys? Do you know? It's very probably straightforward, but
cake lovers pay for it.
basically, yeah. So who pays for it is the cake lovers. And what do they sell? Bakery, like goods and cookies and cakes, everything, like bread. So what do they have to do to have those products is to produce them. So basically this model is manufacturer margin based model. So they're producing the goods they're selling, and their profit is the margin of, like cost versus like the price. So it's like the most basic business model, and we see it all around. Bakery is just one of the examples, but I think it's easy to remember. So that's the example. Then another business model is a gym. So how do they function? How do gyms function? Where does the money go, and how do they what do they have to do to get the money?
My guess is that they can sell health status. What else? Health status, good outfit.
Yeah, but what's like the, if you go to the gym, like what do you pay for?
I pay for the equipment. I pay for the different classes like fitness,
Yeah,
yoga.
exactly.
For possibility to train, or maybe for some support from some consultation from the trainer, etc.
Yes, exactly. So in this business model, as you said, basically how it functions is that it's subscription based mostly. So you pay for like a specific amount of time that you have the access to equipment, the coaches, the classes, everything that you've mentioned. So what does the gym have to do? They have to buy the equipment, they have to hire the coaches, and all like clean the facility and everything, and they generate profit from just having a lot of customers coming and extending their subscription. So it's basically subscription based. It's similar to how Netflix functions, or like any other subscription based business. So it's like a very popular model. It's usually like time based, and so with the gym you pay like for a month or for half a year, for a year, just to have access to something. So that's another very popular business model. And another one, which we have in here, is if you go to someone to consult something, so to some specialist to consult some issue. For example, if you go to we talked a lot about taxes, so to tax specialist or something like this, like how does that work?
Again, it's services.
Mm?
They are selling knowledge.
Exactly. So this one is kind of like, it's called consulting business model. So what they're selling is their expertise and their knowledge, and like they've gained this knowledge for like years of like learning and studying. So now they're just selling the knowledge basically. So this one is called consulting. They consult people. And the last one of the models I wanted to mention for you, because it's like, again, very popular, is a supermarket. So how do they make money?
Putting something sweet. No, go ahead. Something else.
Just reselling everything they have.
Yes, exactly. So they basically selling goods, but what is different from that, from the manufacturer margin-based model, is that in this one it's called product sales business model, and they're selling the goods that they didn't really produce. They just like a center where you can buy something. So you pay for the access to something, to have everything in one place. But they usually, like some of the supermarkets, like have their own brands and everything, but basically like most likely they didn't produce the goods. They just are buying the goods and then selling them for a higher price. So those are just like like a quick warm-up exercise, with some popular business models, but you get the idea. It's like a business model is just describing of like how does the company function and what does it do to make money and how does it make money. So another thing I wanted to talk with you about is St. Gallen Business Model Navigator. So this is also called SGBM, which is just like as Saint Gallen Business Model Navigator. And this is a tool kind of like developed by professors at the University of Saint Gallen in Switzerland. And it was developed to describe, analyze, and design business models. So what is important is like the design aspect, because it is a popular tool, and they kind of like describe already existing business models, but they also help you like provide tools to actually create new business models based on the existing ones. So there is like this book that they wrote, the creators of the Saint Business Model Navigator. It's called the Business Model Navigator, the book. And I have the link for you later on to also a free access. What is cool about this book is that they describe the 55 models, business models that already exist. So you can just read and choose one that you think you would work for your company, and it's just like all in one place. So it's a good resource for you to decide which business model would be good for your company. But also, if you want to create a new business model, you also get like kind of like description of how to do that through this book. And kind of like a takeaway from this whole thing is that, you know, there's already many business models that are like, you know, existing, and you can use them, and there's like in this book 55 of them described. But you know, you can use those models as inspiration and as a source of learning through analogy, and you can actually replicate one of the business models. Or like where innovation comes in is if you actually create something that is unique to your business based on already existing resources. And that gives you the tool to do that. So I highly recommend just like checking out that. I have two links for you for that. The first one is an article. It's like kind of like a shorter version about the Saint Gallen Business Model Navigator. It has like very like short descriptions of each of the 55 models, and also just like the description of the method of how to develop new business models. So it's kind of like everything just like in the shorter version. Or in here, I found like a free preview of the book in English. And I think it's the full version. It has like over 400 pages. So if you want, this is like a free resource, or you can just also buy the book and contribute to their you know, their knowledge and pay for their knowledge. But if you want to save, there's also like this one available for free online. So it's worth just checking out and like learning about different business models, because I only described you the four most like popular ones as examples, but there is like 55 of them described in here, and it's a great source of inspiration. So here's that. And then the next thing I wanted to talk with you about is business model Canva. So business model Canva is basically just like a simple diagram that consists of 9 boxes. I have a picture for you in here. So that's how it looks like. It's very like plain and simple, everything on one page in different boxes. And it's kind of like it describes different aspects of a business model. So as you can see, you have like key partners, key activities, value propositions, customer relationship, customer segments, channels, key resources, cost structure, and revenue streams. So that's like 9 different aspects of a business model, or how your business is functioning, described in a very like simple and straightforward way, everything on one page. So coming back to this slide, why I think it's a great tool, and we will also just, don't worry, we will go over each of the boxes in more depth, so you can, you know, actually kind of like try to do the business model Canva for your business at home with the questions that I will list. So we will go over that, but just coming back to the definition. So yes, business model Canva is very easy to define, easy to design. It's visual, like, and to visualize your business ideas. And what is actually like also good to do is, you know, just draw the table yourself or use post-its as on the picture to represent like the different aspects, like 9 different boxes. But with post-its, what is good about if it's that it's good for brainstorming. So, you know, because if you change one of the boxes, it's kind of like you're changing the whole business model. So you probably have to adjust different box, and like if you change one, you probably have to adjust the other ones to match. So it's kind of like, you know, everything has to go together to create a business model to make your business work. But with post-its, you can, like, if you don't know like what business model you want to go for or anything, you can just, like, you know, try to brainstorm different versions. And with post-its, it's easy to like change it up, like, you know, brainstorm, and you know, it's just good for brainstorming. And then if you have the final version ready, you can put it on one paper and then you have it. So why I think it's a good tool for to use, and I think that every business should have a business model Canva just ready and there, is that it's because it has all the important information about the company on one sheet of paper. So, you know, sometimes if you pivot your business and everything, it's good to come back to, you know, how it was like before, like just by looking at one piece of paper and like seeing, oh, this is actually my business model. And then if I want to change it up, obviously you can do that. But, you know, it's good to just have something on one piece of paper, something just describing your business that is easy to understand, easy to look at, you know, just everything in one place. And it's also easier to describe to, for example, like your new employees or something, like how does your business actually work. So I think it's a great resource, and every business should do it and have it ready. So we'll go over the steps of how to actually make the business model Canva, but okay, some other advantages. So just so I convince you that you have to do it. So as I said before, you can easily modify individual fields and then test different business models. So either with post-its or on different pieces of paper. It's good like brainstorming exercise, and just like helps you decide which business model is the one you want to go for. And then it's also, yes, a clear source of information for the stakeholders. So either whether it's someone like interested in like investing in your business or collaborating with you, or your new employee, it's just something that is just easy to like describe your business with. Everything is there. That's how my business functions, you know. So, and there is like, yeah, you can also easily point out the weaker parts of the business model and quickly prove them, because it's on one piece of paper. So, you know, if you look at it, you see it clearly, and you can like, you see, oh, maybe I could improve this and this, you know. Again, it's because everything is there. So it helps to avoid mistakes and it can help you make important decisions, and like help you with the management process, help you with the pivots, like basically with decision making. And what is also important, and we talked about that yesterday with the design thinking model, but also business model Canva is also focused on customers. So that way it's similar to design thinking process and design thinking method, but you know, it's customer focus. So that's why it's good, because we should be doing our business for our customers, not like sometimes for ourselves as well, but it should be answering some specific needs that we want to address and that we discovered through design thinking process. So a little bit of history behind business model Canva. So business model Canva dates back to 1990s. And it's kind of like it was developed by Alexander Osterwalder, and he's a Swiss entrepreneur and a researcher and an author of like many bestseller management books. And why did he actually like come up with that or write the book about it? It's because through his experience with management, he noted that many companies have difficulties understanding and refining their business models. So business models, and that often leads to the failure, because if you don't know how your company is actually working, like what does it do to make money, then you're gonna fail. So inspired by this problem, he began researching and creating a simple but very comprehensive tool that would allow entrepreneurs to visualize and analyze business models. So that's how he came up with business model Canva. And in 2004, he published his first research on the subject, and in 2010, so he wrote a book with Yves Bickner, and that's a very difficult name, but he published his book Business Model Generation, which you have in here on the picture. And in this book, he introduced business model Canva as a tool for designing different and optimizing business models. And since the launch, business model Canva gained it became very popular and spread around the world. So it's a popular tool, but it's not that old, because 2010, that's fairly new. Okay, so one more thing. Okay, so in here you have a link to buy the book. You can buy it in MPIC. It's in English. I found the English version, but they also have the Polish version if you're comfortable with Polish, yes, but they do have English as well, so you can just buy it easily. And it's a good book, but I have some more resources for you later on. So, okay, let's go back. So this is business model Canva again. That's just very simple table. Like on the internet, you can find like different versions of it. Like in this version, you have like some questions. It's very small font on the slide. But if you print it out, it's going to be more readable, or you can just zoom in and read the questions, which is kind of like easier if you have the question on the slide. So that's why I included this version. But you can also find the different versions, or you can create your own version on the piece of paper. It's fairly simple structure. So now I'm going to talk with you about the different elements of business model Canva. So the first business, with making the business model Canva work, you can start in any of the cells. But I propose that you start with the value propositions as your first slide, but I'll talk about the cells, just in, I guess, random order. But value propositions is probably where you want to start creating the business model Canva representation of your business. Okay, so customer segments. In this section, it describes the groups of customers that company intends to serve. For example, like their demographics, their behavior, their preferences, their needs, and the questions that it answers. You have it on a slide just so you can refer to that later on. But the questions you want to ask yourself while working on this specific cell in the table, it's who is the product being developed for, who might be a potential customer and why, and who will be able to pay for my product. So basically, who's my potential customer? Do I already have some customers? Who are they? Or maybe like who are the customers I want to you know, address, and I want them to buy my product. So it's just describing your customers. So another, oh, okay, let's talk about that. So how to differentiate between different segments of your customers groups is, you know, if they have if their needs require different offers. So for example, you have some product and you have to adjust it differently or have different products for different groups of people. If you have to do that, it means that those groups are different segments of customers, you know. Also, how you can differentiate between different groups is if you have to reach the customers through different distribution channels. And another way to distribute and distinguish that is if they require maintaining a different type of relationship. So with some customers, you probably like want to have like a store and you want to have in-person contact, and you know, you want to have one-on-one with them. Just, you know, the personal contact is important, for example. And for other customers, maybe your relationship is basically non-existent. They just see your product in the store. That is like a different store, not your own, but like a supermarket, for example, or they see your product online and they find it on social media or something, and they just like decide to buy it. You know, you basically have no contact with them. So that would be a different group of customers probably. So another way to distinguish between the segments is if your customers bring significantly different amounts of profit. So some customers want some cheaper products. Some customers are focused on more on quality and like prestige, and they want something more expensive, something that is less available to people, something, you know, unique, maybe customized, you know. So that's probably also a different group than from people who focus more on the price, and the price is more important. So another group or way to distinguish between the groups is if they're willing to pay more for different components of the offer. So kind of like the same, repeating what the previous point was made, so about the prices and what customers are willing to pay. So this is kind of like how you can try to distinguish between the different customers that you may have. And it's good to just like put it in business model Canva, put it on the page, like the different groups that you address, and then you have it, you know, and you know who your customer is or who your ideal customer is and what are the different groups. So the second segment of business model Canva is value proposition. So that's what I proposed for you to start creating your business model Canva with. So this section kind of like describes the value that your company provides to the people. So for example, like the value might be the products, the services, the experiences, the solutions, maybe some innovations, or, you know, so it's something that the people are like, what is the value that the people are willing to pay for, and like what is the value in your customers' eyes. So the questions you want to ask yourself while developing this part of business model Canva is what value do my company offer to my customer? Which customer problems do we help to solve? So kind of like coming back to design thinking, like what are my customers' needs, and have that at the heart of business model Canva. So which customer needs do we satisfy? What sets of products and services do we offer to each customer segment? What matters most to the customers? What is the greatest values to them? So that's kind of like some questions that you can ask yourself, and that might be helpful for you while developing. You can answer one of them or all of them, you know, whatever works for you. And in here, just talking about value, value can be created by many different aspects. So it can be because your product is novel, it's something that no one else have done before. It might be because your product is efficient and it's making your customer's life easier and more efficient, you know. It might be because your product is personalized, you know. It's you know, you add something unique to the product that is just you know, customized. Then it might be your value might be in your design. It might be some really cool design that people desire, or it might be about your brand. Maybe your brand is the value, you know. People buy many things because of the brand, so that's also a very powerful value. It might be in the price, so you might have low prices, or you might, on the other hand, you might have like expensive prices that attract more you know, less customers, but more people who are willing to pay more for your product because of the, you know, quality. But also price plays, like, you know, plays a role in here. If you have a good quality product but you're selling it super cheap, you're probably not going to attract that type of customer who want the quality for a specific price. You know, they might think that your product is too cheap, for example, or too expensive to the other end. So it might be, again, your value, it might be in cost reduction. So you might be good at just like making something cheaper, like in cheaper ways, creating something that is cheap, like that can be sold for cheaper because you did cost reduction. It costs less to produce. Or it might be in risk reduction. So maybe your product like reduces risk for something, you know. And then again, a huge value is also oh, that's a hard word. I always have a problem with it. Availability. So maybe the value, it's something is, if something is available. Sorry. For example, like many of the like small supermarkets who pay like, or maybe like gas stations, like you pay more for the, like, you know, for food there, but you pay because it's open at night or something. So, you know, just different ways to create the value. So you can think about like, what is your value? What is the value of your product? And again, it's good to start with this cell while developing the business model Canva. So another element is the distribution channels. So this section describes the means by which the company reaches the customers. So example, it can be through traditional channels such as stationary sales, like, you know, you might have your store, or you sell your products in some store that has, you know, like a location, like a physical location. Or it may be through e-commerce, or like some more innovative channels such as like mobile apps or online platforms or social media, you know, like just that's that's where you describe like the channels of how you want to reach your customer. And the questions you should ask yourself with that is, what are the channels which my customers would like to be reached? So what are they using, like, or what would they want to use while while looking for products, you know? So just put yourself in the shoes of your customer and think about that. And then how are you reaching your customers now? Are your channels integrated, or it's like separate channels that are just separate, or they kind of like go together, you know, like you can go from physical store, you have the information about the website or something, you know, there's some kind of connection how people can just like go from like between the channels. Another, sorry, okay, no. Here. Okay. Another question is, what channels do I want to use? Not only my customers, but what do I want to use? What is comfortable for me? You know, it's sometimes good to go out of your comfort zone, but sometimes it's also good to just stay with something that is comfortable for you and that you think that works for you. You know, you shouldn't make it like too hard for yourself. If you know that you're not good at posting on social media and you're not going to hire anyone to do it for you, then probably maybe just, you know, don't focus on this channel too much. Maybe focus on different channels, you know, just something that feels more natural to you. Yeah, so like many different questions, you can read them later, but you get the idea. So the fourth element is customer relationships. So this segment describes how the company builds and maintains relationships with the customers. So the questions you want to ask yourself here is, what type of relationship does a particular customer segment, that's why the customer segments are important, expect from us? Because different customer segments might require a different type of relationship that you establish with them. Okay, another question, how can I meet those expectations? What can I do to establish that relationship? What kind of relationships have I already established, like with my customers? And how much do they cost? That's a very important question. Like, how much does it cost me? And it might be the cost in time, in money, in resources, you know, that, you know, you can define cost by different means, but how much does it cost me to maintain that relationship with my customers? Is it efficient? Or maybe I can improve something. That's the type of question you should ask yourself with, like, or maybe like, does loyalty matter in my relationship with the customers? Or maybe am I easily replaceable? And that's also okay. Like, you know, you can go for, you know, less, as I said, like, you know, you can have a relationship with your customer that is not like a customer that's gonna come back to you. It might be a one-time purchase or a sporadical purchase that is like they don't really have any relationship with you, and you know, that's fine. And that's just a different type of business model. So you have to define what works for you. And the fifth element of business model Canva is revenue streams. So this section describes the company main sources of revenue. So the questions you want to ask yourself is, by coming back, so by sources of revenue, I mean like product sales, services, subscriptions, licenses, advertising, or other forms of revenue generation. So, okay, the questions you want to ask yourself is, what are your customers paying for now, and what value would they be willing to pay for? So how do our customers pay? That's another question. How would they like to pay? and what is the share of a particular stream in total earnings. So this is the questions you have to ask yourself, just focusing more on revenue this time. And another segment of business model Canva is key resources. So key resources, in this section, we focus on describing the essential resources that are needed for your business model to function, that are needed for your business to function. So that might be like knowledge, technology, infrastructure, people, finances, or other resources needed to, that are like necessary for your business to function. So what do you need for your business to function? And the question you want to ask yourself is, what resources do we need to create our offer, carry out distribution, maintain relationship, and generate revenue? So this is like different aspects of resources. It might be different resources or different aspects of the same resource. So basically just describe what do you need, what is essential for your business to function. Another element is the key activities. So this section describes the key activities that again, what is necessary in terms of the business function, what is necessary for it to function. So the question you want to ask yourself is, how do I create my offer? What does my day, like typical day, look like? What do I do the most in my business? What do other people in my company do? So like what type of activities are necessary for my business to function? Okay, another aspect is key partners. So this section describes the partners that you're collaborating with, and it might be the established partnerships that you already have, or maybe the partnerships you have to establish or want to establish. Like, who do you collaborate with? Who do you want to collaborate with? So the questions you want to ask is, who are our partners? Who are the key suppliers? So if you're like, if you need some products to create your product with, or next some, who are the suppliers for that? Which key resources do we receive from the partners? So if you have like a supplier or a partner, what do they do? What kind of activities do they give you, or what kind of resources do they provide? Okay. And the last element of business model Canva is cost structure. So this section describes the cost structure of the company. For example, production, distribution, marketing costs, customer service, employment, and other operating costs. So basically in here, you describe the most important costs that your company generates and that are necessary for your business to function. So which key resources and activities are most expensive? That's also valuable information for you, because maybe those key resources and activities are necessary for your business to function. Then you kind of have to know, like, if they're expensive, like, it's good to know how much you actually have to spend to make your business work and for it to generate profit. Is it going to make you enough money for it to be profitable? Or maybe there's somewhere you can cut the costs, just put everything on paper, and then maybe you'll find the answers to your questions. Okay, so as I mentioned before, it's good to start with value propositions. That's something that, like, I think works the best, but honestly, you can start any word that you think you want to start, but value proposition just makes the most sense because it again relates to the value you create for your customer, that your customer needs. That's what makes the business model Canva human-centered and like customer-oriented. So if you start with it, then you know what your customers need, what, and then you can start thinking like, how can I solve their problems, or what can I do for them, you know, through my business. So I highly recommend for you to download the table. You can find it online in many different places. I'll show you some of the links that are useful. So the last link in here is the official website of the publisher of the book, the book that of the, you know, the business model generation. And in here you can buy the books, but also you can download your version of the table, and they also have some different resources there. So this is the source of the main source, the official source of information. So it's good to know that. And I have two more resources for you. The first one is kind of like a YouTube video. It's 1 hour long, so it's longer, but maybe, you know, when you're cooking or something, you want to listen to something, then maybe listen to this video, because it's basically the creator of Business Model Canva talking to Google employees about Business Model Canva. So you can hear firsthand from the creator of the Business Model Canva about his idea behind it, and like, you know, probably some more in-depth and information about Business Model Canva. So this is like a good video, and it's also like to Google employees, so that, you know, more, yeah. And another good resource is the presentation about business models. So this is like a presentation that I found on the government website. We recommended you the PORB.gov.pl. You should already have that resource, but basically this presentation is kind of like a PowerPoint about everything we talked in here about different business models, like Business Model Canva, something, but just, you know, presented in a different way, maybe from a different perspective or something. So it's much longer also. It has like, I don't know how many slides, but it's much longer than our presentation. So it might be also good to refer to if you want just some different perspective or different way of presenting, because that also sometimes like something, sometimes you listen to someone and you just can't understand what they're saying. So maybe it's sometimes just better to read the presentation. I hope that you understand what I'm talking the presentation about. If you have any questions, you know, just remember, ask them. I cannot like see the chat right now, so if you have questions, just ask. Okay, but going, because we have half an hour, that should be fine. Okay, so another aspect of the presentation and another thing we're going to talk about is business plan. So business plan is kind of like the next step after Business Model Canva. It's kind of like an in-depth description of your business, of how it functions, and kind of like why it's worth investing it or collaborating it or with it or funding. It's a document you create for you know, some stakeholders that you want to collaborate with, or you want them to finance your business. So it's more like an in-depth document about your business. And I will tell you like some different aspects that are important to include in the business model, business plan. But what you should know is that business plan should basically have two parts. The first part is the descriptive part, and the second part is the analytical and financial part. So just, just to show that you not only have good ideas, but that your ideas are actually gonna be working and that are gonna be profitable, and that your business is likely to be successful. So business plan is usually like, like 10 pages, like 15 pages, something like this. It's like much longer than business model Canva, which is just one page. That's why business model Canva is good to have, because you have everything in one place. But then business plan gives you more details, it gives you more information, and that's why it's longer. So do them both. But okay, so potential readers of a business plan are banks or leading institutions, funding and private investors, grants and EU funds, and social financing. So basically, like some people that you can get the money from. That's usually the context of a business plan. And what is important in a business plan? It's important to show your own contribution. So basically, what does it mean is that it's important to indicate what you are bringing to the company that is valuable, so that others will want to get involved and invested, like kind of like what is special about your business, and why would people should people get involved with you as a business owner, or your team, or your business in general? So like, why it should be you. Then another aspect that is important to have is the proof of success. So basically in here, it is essential to demonstrate a high probability of a success. So, and also that the risks are being addressed and minimized. So basically in here, you want to say that you're not only like passionate about your business and that you have some awesome idea, but also that you step on the ground, that you know that there's some potential risks, and you know how to address them, that you thought about it, that you thought about how to actually make your business successful from a practical point of view, not only from the idea and innovation point of view. And again, the third, I'm talking point of view, and the last point that is important to have is a point of view. So it is important to understand the position of the investor on a bank, or someone who's going to read your business plan. So put yourself in their shoes and make your business plan written, and like write it in a way that it has the necessary information from the point of view of someone who's reading it, that it has all the information, and that it's like easy to understand, that it's easy to look at, but also that it has enough information. So just like think like, oh, if I want to invest in a business, like what do I want to read in a business plan? Put yourself in the shoes of someone you want to present your business plan to. So that's like 3 important things to remember. So this is like kind of like 10 short sub chapters. So the first chapter would be introduction and presentation. And in here, you want to talk about, you want to include a brief description of your business idea. You want to provide some company data, some history of the company, potential that your company has, or personal, like people who you're working with, and their experience, or your sites. So make it like easy to read and catchy and interesting and like a very like, don't include like, you know, sometimes like the first sentence that you read doesn't every production and in the business plan as a whole in general, like, you know, don't write some empty sentences. Everything should have a purpose, you know, don't waste someone's time. If the sentence is not bringing any new information or any new context or doesn't have any, like, doesn't serve any purpose, then just delete it, make it shorter. And the second chapter is company objectives. So in this chapter, you want to talk about your long-term, about short-term goals, and about motivation and why made you want to expand your business. So basically talk about your goals and why you want to achieve those goals. This is very important information from the point of view of someone who's reading it, because, you know, in the first chapter, they got the information of what your business about and where is it at. And then the second chapter is kind of like, what are your ambitions? What do you want to achieve? Like, what can they bring to the table if they invest in your company? Like, what is your vision for the future of your company? So, okay, second chapter. Then third chapter should be a company development strategy. So make it a little bit more straightforward and, you know, informative. So in this chapter, you want to include your plan for the development, schedule, timeline, why you think the strategy that you chose will work. You can also provide doesn't work, just to show that you have a vision. Okay, you know, talk about customers you want to reach, and so this is something you want to include on. So in here, you want to your industry, on your market prices, or on market prices in general, on the future of the market. So kind of like to set your business in a context and provide information that you know, you did your research, you know what you're talking about, you know your competitors, and you know, and if your investor doesn't know it, then he can read this chapter and then he knows the context of your business. Okay. So then chapter number 5 is market analysis. This sounds a little bit similar, but it's actually a bit different. So in here, we want to draw conclusions from the collected data. So you want to talk about the method that you use to draw the conclusions and the logic behind the drawing of the conclusions. So kind of like in chapter 4, you talk about the context, the data, the statistics, like, you know, the market. And then in chapter 5, you just give like a short description of how you did your research, what kind of resources you used to do your research, like what method you used and what was your logic behind doing the market research. Okay, so just like talk about your methodology before doing the research. Then chapter 6 is competitor analysis. So in this chapter, you want to talk about the number of direct competitors, about the number of indirect competitors. You want to do the competitor price analysis. You want to do analysis of opinions about competitors versus the best in the industry. So basically, what do and you focus on the market in general. So yes, I think that is enough. Okay, so chapter number 7 is product/service description. So in this chapter, you want to include the detailed description of the product/service. So you want to talk about similarities and difference compared to the competitors. And you want to talk about the market differences and also your distinctive characteristics. So basically in here you talk about your product or service, like how is it different? How is it unique? Why is it gonna work? Why is it already working? You know, just like why would the investors want to or should want to invest? Okay, so just talk about your product and also compare to the competitors, because that's the chapter before you talk about competitors. So it's good to just give contrast to what you out and and the plan in chapter number 10, I have like separate slides. So SWOT analysis, you probably know this tool, but I will quickly go over it, and I will tell you why is it important to include in the business plan. So SWOT analysis is basically just like a table where you describe your strengths and selling points, you know, advantages, your skills, like what is your strengths. Then in here you describe your weaknesses, like what are the limitations of your business, what are the potential problems, or like, you know, just what are the weaknesses. It's also important to show that you know what your weaknesses are. Sorry. Okay, so in this part of the table, you want to talk about the opportunities. So what can you improve? Where are the opportunities? Like, you know, what can you do? Or what opportunities you can use to make your business function better. And then in here you have threats. So what are the potential threats to your business? And yeah, so basically you can just use this picture as a reference, but it's important to include the SWOT analysis in the business plan, because again, it shows that you're aware of you thought everything through. It shows that you know your weaknesses, you know the threats to your business, but you also know that your business is strong, that you have a lot of selling points, that you have a lot of opportunities. Okay, so just to show that you thought everything through. It's a great way. And then there is the financial part and the financial aspect. So I'll shortly talk about that. I'm not a financial expert, so I'm just gonna give you the knowledge that I have and the definitions of the different things you probably want to include. But I have some good resource for you. So there is this video on the financial part of business plan, and it's like 15 minutes long, and there's this guy, he explains everything quite well, and he gives some resources for kind of like shows the templates he is working with. So you might want to refer to that video if you want more information. But also maybe for the financial part, it's good to consult that with some specialist who's going to help you with creating the financial part of your business plan. But I'm quickly just gonna give you some ideas on what is worth including in the business plan. So the first thing is a cash flow. So a cash flow is basically a concept that refers to the flow of money between a company and the environment over a certain amount of time. So this is a very important financial indicator, as it allows some investors or you to determine how much money your company or the company we're talking about generates from activities and how much it consumes. Yeah, and profit, and net profit is basically a measure of a company's profits and losses over time, and do not always affect cash flow. And cash flow also includes financial operations such as loan payments or investments in fixed assets. So, if you want to learn something more about cash flow, then just try to Google or try to consult with some financial advisor. This is just some short definition of cash flow, but yeah. Then another indicator is profitability. So this indicator allows to estimate profits in addition to its revenues. In the business plan, it is important to determine the profitability, as it helps to assess the investment. So is it going to be profitable for the investor to invest in your company? Is your company going to be profitable? It's important to include that information and show that you thought about it and you have data to support your points. So another aspect is liquidity ratio. So this indicator allows to assess whether a company can pay the financial obligation it has in a short time. So liquidity is important in a business plan, as it helps to determine the financial risk. Is something wrong with the presentation? Because I just got important to have, I think, is gross margin. So this company's profit after deduction for selling costs. So gross, as it allows to determine how big the service to make the project profitable. I hope so. Okay, I'm gonna continue. If you cannot hear me, just let me know, okay? So we talked about the gross margin. So another thing is the debt to equity ratio. And this indicator allows to assess how large the financial liabilities of the company are in relation to its revenue. It is important in a business plan because it allows to estimate the company's ability to pay its debts. So basically, yeah, can you pay your debts? It's important to include in the business plan. Another indicator is net present value. So to calculate net present value, we need a range of data, including future cash flows, cost of spatial complicated, so I'm just with it because I don't want to like confuse you or advise. You probably want to include that as well. And another aspect is internal rate of return. So this is a method of evaluating the profitability of investment projects, which allows us to determine the percentage rate of return of investment. So this is kind of like where you predict, like, if someone invests in your company, like how much will their return rate on the investment be. And then two last indicators, and you know, like I just listed like many of them. This is just like a proposition. You might not want to include all of them, but it's good to include such indicators just to show and give you a bigger context and show your potential investor that you know what you're talking about and that you're serious and that you're actually like your business is gonna be a good investment. So, okay, two last indicators is EBIT, is earnings before interest and taxes. So this is kind of like an indicator. So EBIT equals to revenue minus operating expenses. So revenue is the overall income from the sale of products or services. And by dividing the operating expenses, which are the costs associated with operating activities of the companies, such as the cost of employment, the materials, the leases, advertising, etc., etc., it gives you EBIT. And what is important, like EBIT does not include financial expenses such as interest or loans or credits or taxes. EBIT is often used to measure companies' operating efficiency, and because it reflects its ability to generate profits from core operations. So, and EBITDA, earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. So this indicator equals revenue minus operating expenses, so EBIT, plus depreciation, plus amortization, plus asset impairments. So, as we said before, revenue is the overall income of the sales from the products. Then if we're talking about depreciation and amortization, the result of wear and tear of fixed assets such as buildings, machinery, and tools. So business model Canva and about business plan. So three different aspects of the same kind of like progression, about business model and about like how to represent it in a text form, in either a more concise way as business model Canva or in a longer way, which is business plan. So this is it for today. This is it from me. Thank you for joining, and I'll stop sharing my screen. And do you guys have any questions? Yes, of course, I can drop all the links in the chat, no problem. I also want to, because I know you will have access to the presentations online, but I also, you know, throughout our meetings, we included many different resources in the presentations. So I'm planning to writing a Word document, which we'll put either like, you know, also on Moodle, but also I'll send it in the group chat. So you just have everything in one place, all the resources, all the links in one document. So this is the plan, and I will try to do that. Yeah. But thank you guys for being here. I really appreciate that. And I hope you found this session informative. Like some of the information I think is like kind of like pretty straightforward, but sometimes I think it's worth just, you know, going again through the information that might seem obvious and just giving it structure. And yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So next week we'll see each other on Thursday, and this is gonna be our last meeting. And this time you will have a session with, as I said, with the Ukrainian presenter who lives in Poland, and she's going to talk about more about the employment, which was the topic you were interested in. So it's going to be the presentation itself. The PowerPoint is going to be in Polish, but she's going to be talking Ukrainian too. So it might also be nice. And it should be a good presentation. And that's going to be our last meeting. So that's, yeah, went by quite quickly. Yeah. But okay, thank you for today, guys. If you have any questions, you can send them in the WhatsApp or anything, but have a lovely afternoon and just enjoy the weekend, and I will see you next week. So thank you.